Okay, I'm now going to show you a little bit of a palette called the fondly known these days as the Beetles back. Now, the little quick story behind the Beetles back is when I was little, I used to see these amazing little beetles that just looked kind of black in the shade, and then when they moved into the sun, you could see these beautiful iridescent effects coming off the Beetles back. For me, it was a really full-on shiny, sparkly, iridescent green and purple looking wing on these beetles that we always had visiting our home when I was little. Since Googling beautiful beetles or shiny iridescent beetles on Google, you'll see that the Beetles back can mean any different colors that your heart desires when you are pouring. They come in all beautiful, different, shimmery colors. Every spectrum of the rainbow is on these Beetles backs. So you don't have really any rules with this one. Probably the main rule would be, well, the only rule would be you do need to use iridescent color shift paints. So what that means is I'm using our This Little Piggy interference colors for the example here. So basically the interference colors, they just look white. Well, in this light you can definitely see what they are, but you know, front on like this before any kind of light catches them, they do look pretty much like they're all the same color. Sometimes I have to pick my little cups up and tilt them in the light to see which color is actually in that tub. As you can see, when you get a reflection happening on them, you can definitely see which interference colors they are. So today I'm going to do a Beetles back using 4 piggies. And because it's so hard sometimes to see what they are in the container, it's a really good idea to just make some little labels on the top there, like I have with the little round white circles, naming what they are. So I don't have to pick them up, stir them, look at them in the light before I know what I'm using. I can just pick it up and go, yep, that's rose quartz, that's shimmer, that's velvet, and that's sequins. So we do have a lot more iridescent piggies in the range than these 4. But today I'm going to use 3 regular interference piggies and 1 duo. So what the duo means is, instead of this just being interference green, this is what our TLP color is called shimmer, and this is what it is. So it's not only a green interference, but it's got a color shift gold interference in there as well. So each pigment particle has green and gold in the same particle. So when you shift it to the left, you're going to see the gold. When you shift it to the right, you're going to see the green. So it's just like a little bit of a fancier version of an interference piggy. Okay, so the basic Beetles back is white pillow, a nice beautiful turquoise or aqua color at the bottom, or if you prefer some softer violets or pinks, you can definitely go down that road, but I am a sucker for turquoise, so I always pop turquoise at the bottom of my my Beetles back pours. The best way to do that is to just pick one color. We're going to pop it down on top of the pillow first, followed by our interference piggies. And now, interference piggies are beautiful on white with white on top of them. There's no doubt about it. That is a beautiful little painting you can do there. Whereas if you really want your interference colors to show up better, we need to include black somehow. So moving on a little bit later when I do another demonstration, I'm going to show you, probably straight after this actually, how putting black at the bottom of the interference puddles can really bring out the best in them. So basically the light is coming through, it's shining down in through those interference piggies, it's going to hit the black and come back through, and what you're going to see is the true color of these pigments. Can't wait to show you that next, but right now let's just get into the standard Beetles back pour. It was in the original course, I did it a little bit differently, but I'm going to try to stick to the same kind of layering system that I had originally. Okay, so let's get going. I'm also going to use the spinner for the first time. So instead of picking it up and tilting it this time, I'm basically just going to make sure that my boards is centered, and I'm going to spin it around like that, and that's going to help push all the paint out from the middle. There's a couple of little tricks using the spinner as I'll talk through you as we go, but talk you through it as we go. Shelley, jumbling your words up. But yeah, it's a really, really fun way to use pigments, and it's quite easy as well. You don't have to have too much of a color theory thing going on when you're deciding how to execute one of these pours with your colors. They generally always work. It doesn't really matter what interference colors you pick, as long as they're in the middle, underneath that black, on top of the tube paint color. You really can't go wrong with this style. Okay, so as per usual, just going to make sure. Now we don't need to use quite as much pillow on the spinner as we do when we're tilting. It's going to disperse the paint outwards quite evenly. Good little way to make sure it's definitely going to cover the edges is to get a little scoop of pillow, and we're going to wet the edge of the board around there, because what that's going to do is we're not going to have color and paint coming out to the edge of this board and finding a really dry edge to kind of flow down, and it's not going to want to really stick to it properly. So what we're doing by popping the pillow around the edge here is making sure when our paint reaches the edges when we spin it, it has that wet edge all the way around. It's going to help drag your painting down over the side much better than if we're just relying on the dry edge here. Paint doesn't really like sticking to the dry edge. It needs something to help bring it over and flow down. So having that all wet with paint is going to be a really cool way of helping it go where we want it to go. Okay, so we're just going to do a regular bloom here. I'm going to place my chosen tube paint color at the bottom. And then in no particular order, I'm just going to layer 3 or 4 interference piggies on top of that. So I'm going in with the rose quartz, which is our TLP interference red. We don't need too much of each one. We're going to go on top of that rose quartz with velvet, which is the interference blue. And what I know you're seeing up there right now is they all look the same color, which is true. They do look the same color. But once we spread this out and we have the black on top of it, as well as the white cell activator on top of that, we're really going to see these colors come to life. So that's the shimmer. It's a green gold duo interference, bit of a fancy one. It's going to give our Beetles back a little bit of color shift. Okay, so sequins is our interference violet. It's probably the most reactive when it gets near black. Becomes a very intense, shiny, intense violet color. Okay, so we're just going to keep our bloom in the middle there. Now, you'll notice I always mix up a lot more black than colors, because when I go to use my black as a base on top of the pillow, which I will show you in a second, we're going to be using a lot more than normal. So I like to mix up quite a big cup of my black here. This is my Holcroft Carbon Black. Medium body. So putting this black down before I put the white cell activator on is really just going to help define those cells underneath. Because as we know, those interference colors, they look quite pale on their own there. They don't really have anything to bounce off to show their true colors. So popping that black on first is going to be our friend. And it's going to help make these piggies sing. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm not going to talk once I put the cell activator on. I really need to take action. I'm going to blow my bloom, blow some quick petals out, and I'm going to give it a spin without waiting too long in between any of that, because I want my paint stretching when everything's fresh and wet. Don't want anything drying while I wait. So let's get to it. Nice puddle of cell activator there. Okay, so I've created some cells. I'm going to give a little blow in the middle there, because I noticed that I had quite a lot of cell activator left in the middle. So, excuse me, dying. Don't forget, if you do see quite a large sort of area of white left in the middle, it's begging you, please blow on me, make more cells. I'm here in a big puddle. You know, don't leave me here to stretch out and remain a big white puddle. Give me a little blow, and then look what happens in the middle here. So what I'm also going to do is switch my white light off and turn on my warm light, because once I spin this out, I want to show you the iridescent effects of these piggies. Okay, so that's all you need to do is just, look, you don't really even need to spin that fast. You can just give it a little spin. If your paint is quite thick, you might need to give it a bit more of a go with your hand. But generally it's a much easier way to spread the paint out than tilting. And it's a lot faster too. Look how quickly that instant painting came about. Popped a few layers on with puddles, blew my cell activator and gave it a quick spin, and yeah, we're ready for the drying station. So over here is the white light. Okay, see how that doesn't show up the piggies that much under the white light? But when we go over here to our warm light, you can see how the warm light really brings up the colors properly. So look, if you're actually wanting to make videos of yourself blooming and pop them on your social media and things like that, if you really want to get the best visual of your interference piggies, or even any of the colors of the piggies or pigments that you're using, you definitely want to have a nice warm downlight. Studio lighting is fantastic for true color, you know, bringing out all your beautiful tube paint colors and things like that. But as far as showing off piggies, definitely the warmer the light, the better. And usually the higher up on the ceiling the light is, the better effect that you get as well. Especially if you're into resin and you like to resin coat your interference paintings and your color shift paintings. Definitely want that nice warm downlight to capture the best visual for your audience. So yeah, that is the regular Beetles back. I'm going to pop that to the side now and show you. So all the golds and the reds are coming out. See, if we didn't have that black on the top, you really aren't going to see a lot of that true color coming through. It's going to be very sort of bland looking, and you're really going to have to look quite close up to see where your cells actually are, or where your cells have formed. Okay, so let's take another step up even from that and show you how if we put a little bit of black paint first onto our pillow before we start to layer our Beetles back palette, we can even take those effects up a notch further. So we'll use a little square one this time. Might just get rid of some of that paint, because that's gonna, if you let this fill up too much, this tub, it's going to come up over the edge, and look, it's not going to go all over the room. It's probably going to come out to about, 6 or 8 inches outside of your spinner. It might make a circle here, so make sure you don't have your phone sitting there, things like that to be careful of. Okay, so we're going to do that again, and I'm only going to make one change. The change I'm going to make is I'm going to pop a decent puddle of black on top of my pillow before I execute my regular Beetles back. And we're going to see how sitting the interference piggies on black as well as under black, really it's where they want to be. They want to be showing off. They don't want to be under white on top of white where, you know, we have to go right out into the sun and kind of squint our eyes to see what's happening in there. The black's really going to make it apparent that, you know, it's violet, it's red, it's green, it's blue. It's going to show up their true colors. So this is a really cool first attempt at using piggies. I think if you haven't used piggies before, grab yourself some interference colors, get yourself a regular black tube paint, mix up per the pouring medium instructions, and have a go at this particular layering method. There's not too much thought that has to actually go into it. And you get some of the best results ever. So basically what I'm doing here is I'm just going to put this black down on top of the white pillow. So what this means is after I stretch this out, you're probably not even going to realize that my pillow was white. You may in fact think that I started off with a black pillow. Now there's nothing wrong with a black pillow. Once you get yourself into the Facebook group and you see that people are using all different colored pillows, you know, it's fine. You can branch out and use whatever color pillow you like. But I am actually quite attached to my white pillow. I love how it moves. I love how stretchy it is. I don't really want to change the foundations of my pillow so much. So I'm just going to cheat a little bit and pour some black that's been mixed into the pouring medium, by the way. So this is my Joe Sonia gloss varnish and my untinted paint base with a Holcroft black medium body paint or whatever medium body black you want to use. Okay, so we're skipping out this color this time, right? The black's going down instead of our base color. Now I'm just going to go ahead and use the same sequence of puddles as I did before. So rose quartz, velvet. See, they're all looking just very much the same, aren't they? It's funny how they come to life once you blow on it and stretch them out. So shimmer. And last but not least, sequins, the interference violet. I used that last because I really love the sequins interference violet when it comes in contact with black. Let's get rid of that little air bubble there. Okay, now before I go on with my white cell activator, I do need that small puddle of black. Again, the same black mixed into the pouring medium, just to give me that extra definition and to give me the best contrast with these cells. So I'm going to see the color popping up from underneath because it's on the black, but I'm also going to see cell definition because I've got black on top of the interference as well. So I'm going to go straight on with my cell activator, blow my bloom, and we're going to spin that out and see if we notice the difference with having the black underneath. Okay, I know I'm going quite fast, but there's no reason to delay. Okay, I've got my bloom. Noticed a little bit more cell activator sitting there, so I'm not going to waste that. I'm going to make sure I get more cells if I can. Let them develop. Now, like I said, you don't really need to spin too fast. Okay. So now it has actually looked like I've used a black pillow, even though it is a little bit of trickery and it isn't in fact a black pillow. It's just a nice big black puddle of pouring medium black. Might give that one more little spin. Okay, and then we're going to notice the difference between the intensity of this color and when it was just on white. So you can see there, the light's coming through. It's going all the way back down to that black puddle. And it's really allowing these colours to come through now and show what they truly are. So you can see at this angle, you don't really see much. Get that light reflection happening, and there they are. This is why the interference pigments are my absolute favourite. I don't think it ever gets old seeing what effects come out when you're using these types of pigments. Absolutely love it. Okay, so we've bloomed a couple of times. We've learnt about the blow. We've learned about tilting. We've learnt about spinning. There'll be some other little tips that I want to show you as we move forward with some more demonstrations. But I'm trying not to bore you and make this all too long, but I don't want to leave anything out either. So I'll finish that one there, and we will move on to some different ways of spreading the paint, like some swiping, which I know you guys are probably really keen to see in this redo of the course, is some tips on the swiping. Okay, so I'll see you shortly for that.